Could there be an underlying reason why we get sick, or is it just bad luck?
Ask Louise Hay. She wrote a whole book on the topic, and it's fascinating to see the correlations that she makes that make you think.
Yeah, she really does. And maybe it's also just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Indeed.
Is there a meaning for illness that goes beyond chance? Something to take a look at. And how does modern medicine look at disease? And how did the medicine men of the past look at it? And how do you look at illness?
Yeah, it's a very complicated issue. If you believe what we're taught, okay, in medical school, it's sort of like the germ theory. Things go wrong with people, we go in there and fix them with medicines and technologies. And as soon as people feel better, everybody's happy. In fact, that's what the patient wants. I go to the doctor because I feel bad. And doctor, I want you to fix me. That's your job. No, I don't want you to particularly tell me what's wrong with my spiritual life, thank you, or my lifestyle. I just like you to fix me because I want to feel good. That's the mentality we have in today's medicine. And I can understand it because a lot of what happens to people is terrible. Lots of illnesses going around that are a big challenge.
And then, too, there are some illnesses that it's pretty obvious why a person got it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, say somebody that's got lung or throat cancer and they smoke.
Sure.
Or heart disease
Sure.
and they smoke.
Or somebody who's got problems with their neck because there's a lot of tension and they're clenching their jaw, or they've got ulcers or colitis or illnesses that are easy to tie together. That's the common thing that we see, and we kind of separate them into groups. But a lot of the time, we don't really look at it in a way where we think, well, that was connected to something because you needed to learn a lesson. We're more kind than that, even though there's a lot of thinking, particularly from the old shamans of the world, that everything has meaning and illness has meaning too, and in the context of your whole life story.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to swallow if you're really sick because you don't want to think that it's your fault, or that it's karma, or that you did something to deserve it, or it's a punishment.
Right. And that's fair enough, because in your conscious mind, you would never give yourself cancer to teach yourself a lesson of some kind or some other illness. It just is, it would be a very uncommon thing. But if you're talking about your higher self now, that's something that's unconscious. And it could be that conversations with God, this whole book written on that, could be between your higher self and all of the universe, and looking for meaning in that context is another story. I like to look at illness as the somatic or physical expression of psychospiritual dis-ease. That's old-fashioned thinking. That's the way the shamans of the world operated for thousands of years.
We're all connected.
And we are all connected. If you look at the unity-duality theories that we have, unity means that everything is connected and it's inseparable, and it doesn't function exclusive of any part of it or any aspect of who we are.
So how does the body-mind interact and connect?
Well, it's one thing. It's not like it's two things. So the body, mind, emotion, spirit, ego, superego, id, any other way you want to divide up ways of looking at who we are, you're really starting to perform something I call reductionistic holism, which is an oxymoron. Because we're not like pieces of a clock where you start building things together and aha, you've got the emotion piece and the intellectual piece and the spiritual piece. No, we don't exist like that.
Okay, well, let's say somebody's sick and they come and they see you, and they're having pain for some reason.
Whatever.
They're having pain. I mean, they want their pain taken care of.
Absolutely.
They want their symptoms taken away.
Yeah, and they deserve it. They deserve to have it taken away.
They don't feel like they want to be doing this big, heavy-duty psychological thing. They just want to get rid of the pain.
If you approach it that way, it's easy to get rid of pain, whether it be pills or technologies. But if you pay attention to the reason why the pain is there, you might learn something that will prevent this particular problem that you have that's at the psychospiritual level from expressing itself in another way. So maybe you have a headache because you're clenching your teeth, and so you give somebody an aspirin or whatever you want to give them to take care of their pain.
Well, then they'll be back tomorrow because
they'll have a headache or a backache, or maybe they'll get an ulcer from it, or maybe they'll get colitis or asthma or some other disease. This is a way of looking at illness that's a lot deeper than we're accustomed from our training. And of course, it's almost impossible to treat anybody in today's medical world because time is money. So you work for some big HMO and you need to spend an hour and a half or 2 hours with one patient. You do that a few times, you'll be looking for a job as a doctor, because they won't let you do that. It's not economically the way to operate a good business.
But this is one of the things that's so beautiful about the healing circles that you do at the Health Medicine Center.
Absolutely.
Because you look at the patient as a whole, and you look at their body, mind, emotion, spirit.
All those perspectives.
All together, and you have all the different healthcare practitioners together with the patient at the same time.
Right.
To help the patient at a deeper level.
It's to find out what's going on at the deepest level. Why do they have the thinking that they have that can get them into trouble? And with a group of people who are with you for a couple of hours, after you have written an autobiography of your physical, emotional, and spiritual health, and everyone's read it, the idea of the circle then is to listen and care. It's not to make big judgments, but it's to support the person and help them to discover more about who they are and why their life unfolded the way that it had to and did, because at the time they had their challenges, they didn't have the tools to deal with the problems that they had.
Well, let's give an example, like the patient that you had many years ago that had been stabbed.
This is a person who had back pain. There's a woman, and she was about to have surgery, and her pain was terrible. And yet, as it turned out, when we did a deeper analysis of what was going on with her, it turns out she had been stabbed in her back while she was being raped. And when she made the connections together and we did a little psychotherapy over a few weeks, the back pain resolved, no surgery. So you can do a lot to go to the deeper levels of what illness means in the context of the individual person, their whole life story, and how that fits into everything that exists in the universe, because it's all connected. From the other point of view, we look at duality, and then yourself is separate from everything else. That's another story. And if you live that way, you'll be independent, you'll be adversarial most of the time, you'll be competitive, and you'll be more interested in I, me, my, and mine. So you'll be after money and power and things that are going to make your life more comfortable, as opposed to a life where there's giving and sharing and loving and building of community, and we work together like a village. Whole different concept. And until we evolve from that place that we are now to the model that I'm describing, things aren't going to change. So is there an underlying reason for illness? There's an underlying reason for everything that unfolds if you have enough trust and faith in the universe. That being the case, if we behave in the fashion where we're loving and supporting and giving and sharing, the world will become a beautiful place, and it happens one person at a time.